So here's part two. We're going to continue this Warlord series. And we just left off on issue 29. And for some of you who have come on to part two and not part one, what it is, it's Warlord is basically based around a character called Travis Morgan. And like a quick rundown of what he is, he's a Vietnam veteran, pilot, and he passed through a hole in the Earth's crust while flying over the North Pole in 1969 and landed in the underground world of Scartaris, a place strongly remnants of like Edgar Rice Burroughs kind of Conan-ish world. And there, Travis, after being crash landed, having nothing but a 44 pistol, he joined up with the local tribe of humanoid people around there, Terra. Definitely a hot little scantily dressed savage broad, and became the warlord and fought villains and evil, like against evil sorcerers and bad kings, to try and keep the safety of the people on this world. And the one thing that's always been capturing by this guy, if you haven't watched part one, is some of the covers are just quite amazing, actually. And to me, some of them are very iconic, just as much as any Superman or Batman that you might find now. And when you're flipping through, I'll give you a couple of quick interesting facts about the Warlord. During the 80s, with the big rush of comics to toys, he was actually elected out of their entire toy line to actually have his own line of toys. Now, his toys were pretty shitty. Pardon my language, but they were bad. They were basically a Masters of the Universe ripoff with no articulation, oversized bodies, just absolutely terrible. And I'm not really sure, but off the top of my head, I would think there was at least 8 characters that they released during this line. And actually, during that line, they released characters that were tied into his series, but not directly related, like little spin-offs or like back of the issue stories. But they included a bunch of those people to also into his toy line, which is actually pretty cool, actually. Because we just came across like a big section with OMAC, right? The one-man army corps, which I find it surprising that they would cross that kind of a genre with Warlord, but hey, I didn't work at DC. But and they've tried to reincarnate this guy a few times now, and he's up to a few volumes and a few one-offs. And I'm just going to stop here for a sec. But this is where they started introducing some of the other 70s sword and sorcery characters. Like the Claw, for example. And then this is when they started introducing like Arak, which is a Native American superhero that DC tried to have. So they had a lot of crossovers, not into his story, but into the comic book, in which they definitely tried to, because there was enough readers paying attention to this that they bled into other comic books. And yes, before we continue, there is no book bags and boards, but it's all happening sooner or later here. So chill out, relax. The best thing about Warlord, and one of the reasons why I definitely got into it, it's first, the story's amazing. They should actually turn it into a TV series and have the budget of Game of Thrones, or they should do a movie that would outrival any Conan movie that they're trying to revamp right now. But the one thing about Warlord is they're actually relatively cheap, and the crazy part is the art is really good. The story is very, very good, and they're still like a sleeper hit. This is another one where they introduce Arion, which they're trying to have another spinoff. Anyway, so a lot of these comics, and I'm sure everyone does this, they go on eBay or they have like a local comic shop that they go down to. But a lot of these, even though that these are 30-year-old comics, and I believe the story is actually strong enough to hold on its own, but relatively you can find these cheap in pretty good shape. Just flipping through here, and I would think like a comic grade of 2.0 to 8.0 of a Warlord at your local comic shop will range anywhere from 50 cents to $10. To get into this series is very cheap, and actually it is well written. Well written. If you've watched any of my other videos, I've said, yeah, pick up these comics, read them and stuff. This is something that I would actually recommend. As bad as it sounds. But it's actually really well done. All around good comic book. Like such strong artwork. This Mike Grell actually, to me, he reminds me of what Sergio Argarnes was to Gru. If you took Sergio away from Gru and tried to have another artist try and produce that comic, Gru would have suffered even worse than it was. So, now that we're getting into the later issues, that's when they start actually spinning off to other artists. And this is my complaint. I don't know what was happening during the 80s, but of course that's when I first started having to read comic books. And this art just started going downhill. And it was like that. What is that? Is that like, I don't know. That's not as good as it once was. The story's still good. Don't get me wrong there. And I understand that they need new artists, and some guys get burnt out. But really, sometimes you need to spend a little bit more money to get the right people if you want to keep your series going, I would think. But I would do a part 3. I don't know if you guys actually want me to continue with this line, because actually there's some pretty amazing covers still coming up, and there is a little bit more that I can tell you about it, because actually now that we're in the later issues, he does find a way out of the inner earth, but time has elapsed from 1969 to like 2303. And when he comes back, he gets reintroduced to the regular world, but he still has to deal with the inner world stuff. So a lot of chaos ensues. I'm going to stop the video here. If you guys actually want me to continue this, make a comment. I'll finish off with the issues, because there's only a few more. It'd be another 3-4 minutes. But if not, this was my Warlord introduction, and hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you guys watch both parts. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.